We are recording with the one and only Mr. Norman Ohler on Sunday, August 18th, 2024 at 12:20 p.m. Eastern Time. He is on vacation and he has been so grateful with me that he has given me some time out of his vacation. So, guys, please, as a thank you to Mr. Ohler, please go in the description. Please go get his newest book. He's been on here several times before. Um, this is episode 1554. You actually, the first time you came on, I think was episode 180. So Mr. Oler is actually one of the original guests, and we talked about Blitzed. You've been on here. We've talked about the Bohemians, and your newest book, Tripped, about the Nazis, psychedelic use, specifically LSD, Sandoz, and Albert Hoffman, is absolutely incredible. And I would ask you guys, please go in the description. Please go get the link to Audible. Go grab a copy. It's legitimately a great fucking book. And please give Mr. Oler some support. So, and Mr. Oler's now he's now a celebrity as he was just on Joe Rogan. So with that, Mr. Oler, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I couldn't be better. I mean, the summer's been very exciting, and Trip is doing well, and I really love this book because it's also, as you know, about my mother and her
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's disease and our attempt to use LSD. So it's also very personal. LSD to cure her Alzheimer, or at least make the effects less severe. So it's a personal book, and I'm very happy that it is successful, especially in the United States, where there seems to be a large psychedelic, discourse happening. Um, yeah, I just had 3 amazing weeks in the U.S. I was touring with a friend from New Mexico back to LA in the car. It was a really amazing trip, actually. And now I'm with my son in the north of Berlin. It's also nice. So I'm in a good mood. How are
Beautiful.
you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you, sir. It's,
Cool.
it was kind of a nice change of pace in comparison to Blitzed or the Bohemians. Obviously there's
What trip?
yes, in that
Okay.
well, in that the general vibe. I mean, it's very near and dear to my heart. I've spoke to you about it in 2014. I lost my older brother to suicide, and
Mm,
I've done tons of interviews with doctors researching psychedelics explicitly for
mm,
mental health. I've had a few psychedelic trips in my life, and they've been incredibly beneficial to my own mental health and led
right.
to huge life changes, getting sober, losing weight, getting a therapist, changing jobs. I
Mm.
mean, it really has, it's no exaggeration to say it's completely changed my life. And I really respect
So
and
you
appreciate.
think these substances are beneficial?
Yes, and I was going to say I really respect and appreciate your vulnerability in your book, talking about the
Yeah.
aid it's had to your mother. I think it takes a very strong person to be as tender as you are in your book. And h-
Mm.
how did so in terms of just general vibes, Blitzed and the Bohemians are both they're very dark, right? It's death, it's war, it's tyranny, and I love them, but they're very dark. Tripped is much. It's not. It's not hyper focused on, say, MK Ultra or the CIA. There's definitely
Yeah.
focus there, but there's a lot of silver linings. What what led to that for you?
Actually, I always try to write light books. I think light books are better. Um, and I would disagree with you that Tripped is so dark. I mean, Tripped is pretty dark, but it's still a
No,
very
no.
light read. I
Tripped is
find it kind
light.
of,
Blitzed is darker.
no, yeah, Blitz is darker, but it's also kind of funny, I think. I mean, for me, it's
It's
very,
hilarious.
yeah, so it has a lightness to it, while the Bohemian, I mean, the story is very tragic. I think there is a lightness in imagining these people who lived during the so-called Third Reich, like
Hmm.
during the tyranny, and were like practicing free love and having parties, and just that this is our resistance against
Hmm.
dictatorship. It's also it has a light touch to it also.
No, it
But I'm
does.
happy you think that Tripped is a light book,
It
because if
is.
you look at the cover, it doesn't look so light. It
No,
has like
it's a German helmet. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "This is." I know Mr. Oler wrote this. Yeah, no, it's. I would say no. Blitzed is absolutely hilarious, and I'll talk about that in a sec. It's dark in
yeah,
that you follow, Hitler down his own inevitable demise in a bunker, and I'd say Bohemians is light, but it's also dark at how it begins.
yeah. I
Talking to
mean, it's
your
very
grandfather.
sad.
Well, it begins with you talking to your grandfather pretty much about, you know, what were you doing during that time.
Right,
It starts with a
right.
very dark note. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Tripped is much lighter. Um, did it start that way?
Script?
For in your general research purposes, because you go into Sandoz, you go into Nazi experiments,
No,
but it
no. It
turns a
started.
much
It
yeah,
it started in the darkest place imaginable, which is a concentration camp
yeah,
close to Munich, Dachau. This is where I found for the first time evidence that the Nazis were using psychedelics. And I've always loved psychedelics and connected them to the hippie culture or the peace movement in America, and not really to the Nazis, which are like the opposite. So I was a bit disturbed by these findings, but also curious. What did the Nazis do with psychedelics? And that's what started Trip, because Trip shows actually that the Nazis did some research with psychedelics, and that led the Americans into their interest in psychedelics, because the American armed forces and then American intelligence was very interested in what Nazi science was trying to figure out, because the Germans were known to be really good scientists. So that the Germans were interested in psychedelics meant that the Americans became interested in it. So I kind of, well, maybe we could say, discovered that link between like the very early years of, for example, LSD, especially. I mean, the main psychedelic in Switzerland when it was discovered, and then later in America when it was becoming like a phenomenon, like what happened in between and what is, I thought
mm,
that was crucial. And it's kind of funny because, I had to go to the archives of Sandoz for it in Basel. It's like a very serious archive.
yeah,
And I'm kind of, I don't know, it was just, it just turned into like a comedy, like my exchange with the archivist trying to, he was trying to basically have me not see, uh,
the
like,
psychedelics.
well, like interesting documents that would link his company, for example, to the Nazis or something. Like, he didn't want me to find this. I think that was the impression I had.
Yeah,
Because why would he want that? On the other hand, it's his job as the archivist to show me what's there. So he was kind of in a dilemma, I guess.
mm,
And that story, so that's kind of a human story. You have the researcher and the archivist. That's kind of that could be like a short story also.
yeah,
And I try to, you could say, bribe him, but you could also say I try to become friends with him by offering him LSD. So that
yeah,
was kind of, so that is described in the book, like what actually happened and why he suddenly changed his mind towards me and became quite helpful. That's kind of interesting.
yeah. Yeah, especially when you give him the LSD and his face lights up. This is for me. You know, yeah, this is for you. It is.
Right.
No, it's. But I think there is kind of some value in that, you know, the archivist and the researcher, and he maybe
Right.
didn't want you to examine or illuminate the correlation with LSD, which you're right, is not his job. His job is to show all the information, and
Mm.
nonetheless, your natural course was still, I mean, even the very course of the book is it starts, you know, researching it in the darkest military aspect, mind control, making Manchurian candidates, assassins, Dachau,
Mm.
midnight climax, you know, the
It's
worst
pretty
of
dark.
things. It is. And then the natural evolution throughout the book is it turns into the closest, most loving thing, and it's your relationship with your mother and your father, and
Mm.
how it turns a corner. And I think that there is some poetic symbolism in that I remember my whole life I grew up, you know, going to Catholic schools and hearing that psychedelics were the devil, versus the first time I ever tried them, I remember sitting there on mushrooms and just remember I remember thinking this is what I was scared of. This is so
Yeah, it's
it's so
crazy.
soft and beautiful. Um, but
I think drugs are dangerous for psychedelics are dangerous for those who never taken them. Like they
sure,
think it's dangerous, but most people who've actually used them have a different opinion.
yeah. And you take it to the nth degree. I've always talked about on the show and with researchers the importance of not necessarily taking psychedelics at a concert, although that's not none of my business if someone does that, but rather using the
Mm,
trips for therapy. And you take it 1 degree further, and it's not even heavy duty trips, it's micro dosing.
right.
And
Yeah.
you've seen that firsthand. Do you see a future in that for, I mean, obviously we would wish it, but do you see a future in that in terms of, for the pharmaceutical industry to do some sort of microdosing, or does that spit in the face of, kind of the monopoly, the grip they have on things like SSRIs?
I mean, the FDA just rejected MDMA as a
Yeah.
therapeutic medicine, which was kind of a blowback, I guess. But I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's just going to take more years now, because that would have been a good starting point. Um, I think companies who, for example, do not produce SSRIs, like young startups, could develop, um, for example, a mushroom microdose that is proven to enhance neuroplasticity and basically makes you smarter. I think that's totally possible. I think the problem, I think if you test that clinically, you would come to that conclusion, but I don't know how difficult it is to test it clinically. Like, how can you measure enhanced neuroplasticity? I mean, to really prove that scientifically, I think it's very complicated and very expensive. So as long as the society does not really, and that means the government basically, or I mean, if there's enough pressure from the people on the government would change its mind. But right now, um, the government does not really put priority into developing psychedelic medicines, which I think is a shame and a big mistake if you look at the mental health crisis in America. But I think there's just a lack of intelligence within the government, like people who are responsible for making regulations, also people within the FDA, on all kinds of levels. It's not really wanted, so it's very complicated to make these clinical tests. Very expensive. That makes it much harder. Um, for example, during the COVID pandemic, politicians wanted to have vaccines, or the society wanted to have vaccines, or at least large parts of the society wanted to have them. And regulations were softened so they could be developed faster because they were needed faster, or at least it was believed that they were needed fast. In the beginning, everyone said we will not have vaccines within the next like 5 years, and then they lowered the regulations, and then it was possible. So
Hmm.
it would be possible to create psychedelic medicines within the next 5 years if we as a society would really want it. And I think we should want it, but we're still very ignorant about it. So um, every politician should be tripped.
No, they should. And I was gonna say, yeah, there would be a handful of reasons as to why it would be allowed and then expedited in the US. I would say the first is if it's seen as a performance enhancing drug, something like Silicon
Mm.
Valley or even the intelligence communities. The next would be profitability. And I would say lastly, you might see it
I
in
think
something like the VA, where I mean, I think something like the United States lost 7,500 killed in action during the War on Terror over 20 years, but they've lost closer to 100,000 from suicide. That's almost twice the Vietnam War. I think if the VA found a way to use LSD or psilocybin or MDMA, either large dose or microdose, if they found a way to do that, I mean, it's not loving, but if the reason they could find
mm.
is, hey, look, none of our servicemen and women are killing themselves and it doesn't cost a lot of money, then it could be appealing to something like the DoD, which sounds awful, but it's also realistic.
I think the veterans were very much behind the MDMA being legalized, and it didn't happen. So also their power seems to be limited. It's really unfortunate that it didn't happen. Um,
Do
yeah,
you,
the FDA, huh?
I was gonna say, do you think just from your experiences and what you talk about in the book is another option I've always thought of, and it's a bit more of a pipe dream, would be if an influential person, I always imagined it would be an influential person experiencing it themselves, but I think you point out another option is something like somebody's mother or father. Like what if an Elon Musk character or a Bill Gates
Mm,
character had the experience you had?
right. I mean, I'm getting a lot of emails and from people who have like a spouse or a parent suffering from Alzheimer, and it's kind of heartbreaking that people are actually writing to me asking for advice.
Yeah.
Where can I get microdoses of LSD? Uh, I mean, someone like Elon Musk who presented himself with Benjamin Netanyahu, like hugged him, a person who is prosecuted at the International
Mm-hmm.
Criminal Court for war treason, maybe even genocide. Like, it would probably be better for Musk because I don't even know. I mean, he kind of pretends to be pro drugs. He's kind of flirting with it because he thinks he can appear as cool.
Yeah.
And he also like apparently like I mean I watched the clip. He's said to have smoked a joint with Joe Rogan on the Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
But if you look closely, he just took a puff. He probably wasn't even stoned. So
All
I
right.
think he's
Well, maybe
I
Elon's a
think
bad
he's
example. I'd choose any other billionaire or influential, CEO.
I mean, it makes total sense to promote psychedelics, especially in America, where transcendence and going, beyond what thinking beyond, is so ingrained in the culture. I think it's actually a no-brainer for America to legalize psychedelics. If America would legalize psychedelics, it would create such an evolutionary cultural advantage over other countries who
Yeah.
don't do that, like China, for example, because China will never let its people explore free, but America is based on that idea of free exploration.
Hmm.
So America is like holding itself back. So, I mean, anyone who understands this, be it Bill Gates or any other influential person, should, if he or she is interested in the good of the people and of the country, obviously, try everything he or she could to advance this topic and help with the legalization.
I think that rationally, I know people who have experienced psychedelics in a therapeutic manner know that it's a no-brainer. But we're also, I mean, just turn the clocks back 20 years. Look at the United States. 20 years ago, maybe Boulder, Colorado, you could get legalized weed everywhere. I mean, as somebody that lived in the state of Georgia, the
Mm,
deep South, weed was
you
like
couldn't?
oh my God, Bible thumping deep South. You get caught with weed, that's like worse than going to jail. Like that's worse than getting a lady pregnant. That's the devil's lettuce. Like, and now 20 years later, it's like such a non-issue. Like,
uh, also
so
in the South.
well, I don't know how much so in the South, but even for like, my parents and my parents' generation, the baby boomers, even in 20 years, they've gone from looking at it like that's evil to they're all retired. They all they all have like weed teas and weed honeys and stuff. And so I am optimistic in that it can shift. I think what it would take
Mm,
is it would take, I mean, in a perfect world, it would just happen. But in this world, I would say it's probably going to have to influence somebody very powerful. Probably going to have to influence some
mm.
Pentagon official or a politician
Yeah,
or
maybe.
a
Yeah.
billionaire. Somebody's going to have to experience firsthand, like what you experienced with microdoses helping your mother, or, you know,
Mm,
it's going to be somebody like, I lost a sibling to suicide, but I'm also a small podcaster. What happens when you, again,
mm.
get an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates or a whoever who
Right.
loses someone? I think that's what it will take. And then once it starts,
Mm,
like decriminalizing weed, it started in Boulder, Colorado, and then it spread to most of the country. It's not even
right.
I'm in Portland,
Yeah,
Maine.
once it starts.
I can go to the local store and go buy some wheat chocolates like it's nothing. They can get them at
Where
the
are
gas
you?
station, Portland, Maine. You can
Really?
you can walk down the street. Oh, you can go get a Coke, a bag of chips, and a bag or a box of chocolate wheat chocolates. Like, it's nothing. Where's your
Right,
ID? It's no different. So my point is like 20 years ago that seemed impossible. And
right.
with the profit incentive, it has now become possible. So I guess I am hopeful, but I think psychedelics are such a giant step past weed in the minds of people who haven't done them that it's gonna
I think
require more.
weed is I think weed is actually more intense than psychedelics. I
Weed is
mean, it depends
so
on the
much
dosage.
it
Yeah,
is so much scarier than LSD.
it is actually. I mean, LSD should probably be sold in small quantities, like because if someone who's never taken it suddenly takes, let's say, 500 micrograms, that would be very
Oh
strong.
God.
So maybe it should be, it should be it should be regulated in some way and organized and discussed and in dispensaries or whatever. I it's I think it's much healthier actually than weed. I think weed is a very mysterious drug actually. I think
Yeah.
it's a great drug. It's a very interesting drug, but it's more difficult to understand than LSD. LSD is quite simple actually.
Yeah.
Um, so I was a bit surprised that every country is like legalizing weed and not LSD. I guess it is a cultural thing because people are used to it. They're not really scared of it anymore. So LSD people are still scared of it. That's why I wrote Trip to kind of take
Yeah.
the fear away.
Yeah, weed is hands down scarier than L. I would much rather on a random Sunday like today take a small dose of LSD and sit around my apartment than
Yeah,
I would smoke a joint. You freak out, you eat like you gain 10 pounds in munchies, you're hungover the next day. You do psilocybin or
yeah,
LSD, you feel great for like a couple months. It's
right.
I think that's what, but again, it's the conception. It's not people, it's not you and me. It's not, we are not the people that need to be won over. The people that need to be won
Right.
over are the people that still believe reefer madness. They still believe you take LSD, you're gonna jump out of your window. And
Mm,
I think the only way it's gonna change is if an influential person
mm,
has a personal or a immediate family member affected by it. And it's
yeah,
unfortunate, but um
maybe you're right.
yeah. And because of that, I would say no, they do need to read your book. Your book is the perfect exposition of just that. So
Thank you.
yeah, of course. That's what I would tell people is go get tripped. If you enjoyed
I
Blitz, go
think,
get tripped.
but you said as an audiobook. I would say a book is better.
Oh yeah, no, you do whatever. You book audio. I'm audiobook inclined.
Yeah?
Um oh yeah, no, I just enjoy because I listen to it while I'm walking around doing stuff. I was gonna say, and we'll wrap it up earlier because I know you're on vacation. I don't wanna eat into your time. But what I was gonna say about Blitz being funny. Blitz is
Yeah,
hilarious in that there's one scene, and I talk about it all the time on the show, is how when Hitler was with Ava Braun and they were up in the mountains, and
yeah,
you start one of your chapters with it, and it's just like a passing sentence, but you say he was impressing her or thought he was impressing her doing impressions of World War I machine guns. And I always just think that's the
right.
funniest fucking thing ever that Hitler was with Ava high on Eucadol, just going. I'm like, that's the funniest thing. That is the funniest like history fact I've ever thought of. It's just Adolf Hitler just making gun noises like a 10-year-old. That is the funniest fucking thing I've ever read in a book. So
Yeah, I
you're
don't know
all
where
right.
I found that. Thank you, but
It
no, I
is
mean
hilarious.
it's kind of fun to like to narrate history a bit differently, also, not I mean everything needs to be, factually true,
Sure.
but the writing should be I think the writing should be fun.
Yeah.
Because it should be fun to read. It should be boring to read history. That's often the problem. It's
Well,
kind
there
of too heavy or too boring, I think, to read it. And it's not good.
I think there are two characteristics of a good teacher, and one is it's somebody who's able to break down something to that anyone can understand. And
Right.
two, and even more talented, is the ability to make it fun and entertaining. And that's what you do, both of those things in your book. That's the highest compliment I can give somebody is you make it easy, but you also make it fun. It's hard not to crack a smile when listening to your
Right.
books. And that is anyone that reads history knows that is the absolute apex. That is the mastery, and that's what you have. And so with that, so I'll give you that's the best compliment I can give you, and that's the best endorsement I can give you to people, to everyone
Right.
listening, to please go grab the book. It really is. I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it. It truly is a special read. But Mr. Ohler, I don't want to keep you. I know you're on vacation. It's Sunday, so I will take the 20 minutes and as gratefully as possible. And
I'm always on vacation though.
that's awesome. That's fucking hard. That's more of an endorsement for bring psychedelics into your life. How do you live a life where you're
Right.
always on vacation? I don't know. That's this
Yeah.
guy. So, Mr. Ohler,
Well, it was great. It was great talking to you again.
yes, sir. You as well.
And let's catch up with the next time, right?
I'd love to. I'd love to. You got my email. You have an open invitation to my show. I'd love having you on.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, sir. Guys, please go in the description. Please go get a copy of Tripped or Bliss or the Bohemians. Till next time, Mr. Ohler, thank you so much for your time.